So we're gonna get started with the final project for the laser cutting week. And we're gonna be making a laser cut container with a living hinge. I haven't even glued this together. This just fits really tightly. These slots are really precise and it's worked out really well. The living hinge part is actually this part right here. And the reason it's called a living hinge is because we can open this up and now it's like very flexible and bendy and really cool. I also want you to notice that I have my initials engraved somewhere on the box. You need to have your initials or your name somewhere engraved on the box as well. If you want to make it your own and be a little creative, you can engrave stuff on the side or the front or cut stuff into it. It's totally up to you, but let's get started. So I just want to show you a few examples of other laser cut items that have been made using the living hinge technique. If you just Google living hinge laser cut, you're gonna see a lot of interesting stuff come up. And I think it's just cool to look through all of these because it's kind of inspirational and it gives you an idea of how other makers have really pushed the envelope with what you can do with wood. If you're curious about what a living hinge is and how it's actually created, how the pattern is created, I would definitely check out this blog. This person came up with a lot of the original patterns and he goes more in depth. He talks about parametric kerfing and how patterns are created and flattened into two-dimensional vectors. And he also has a lot of work that he's personally done with parametric kerfing. And then there's also this other blog, and this person goes into more of the calculations involved with making a living hinge and how that impacts the actual outcome of your project. So if you're interested in that kind of stuff, look below this video and I link those things there. So you want to open up this link right here, which is also linked below this video. And this is a open source box generator and it's written in Python. It's really awesome. We're going to be using the boxes with flex. So if you hover over each of these, there are different boxes with flex. You can do whichever one you want. I'm okay with that. I'm going to be showing you how to do flex box 2, box with living hinge and top corners rounded. So if I click on that, I come to this page which allows me to input a bunch of different numbers and settings, and then that'll change the box. So I'm kind of curious, if I don't change anything, what is this going to look like? Okay, so this is what I would actually end up laser cutting. And let's just make sure we're on the same page. So this is the slotting. This right here is the living hinge or parametric kerf. And it's in millimeters. So now I'm going to go back and I'm going to open up all of the different settings that I can change. So settings for finger joints. These are finger joints. I'm not going to change the settings they have, and I'm going to see if this works for me. There are always issues that you can run into with tolerances, and every laser is different, every tool is different. So you may need to go back and alter these if your joints are too loose or too tight. This is how you would do that. Settings for flex, same thing. This is talking about the living hinge. I am not going to mess with this because I'm curious to see if this is going to work as is. All right, flex box 2 setting. So this XYH is talking about the width, depth, and height of the box. And right now it's measuring from the outside, but I could unclick this and now it's going to be measuring from the inside. This radius is talking about the living hinge. So if I change this to, let's see, maybe 50, and then press generate, my living hinge is going to be a lot longer because I want the living hinge to really wrap around the top of my container. Let's also see what happens if I want to make a longer container. Let's change this to 200 and generate. And now it's a really long piece on the top that I would be connecting. Something really important to pay attention to is thickness. So they want the thickness as millimeters, and we're going to be using 1/8 ply. And I know off the top of my head that that's 3.175. If you want to, you can get really precise. You can use digital calipers. These are laying around the lab. So let's talk some about the living hinge cut that you're going to make with the laser cutter. So I have this living hinge here. I also have this living hinge, and I'm trying to decide which one I'm going to do. So this living hinge, the laser is going to cut a lot of cuts really, really close together. And it's going to do that for a long time. This one is going to cut about 6 or 7 rows of the parametric curve, and then it's going to do another 6 or 7 rows a little bit further away. Okay, this one is more likely to start a fire than this one. And that's because with this one, the laser cutter is just constantly cutting, and the cuts are so close together that it becomes really likely for the tail fire to just kind of expand. And I would strongly recommend steering clear of a big cut like this and try to break it up so you have 2 cuts that are further away from each other. So let's say this is my file and this is what I want to cut. Now I'm going to save as, and I'm going to open up in Illustrator. Okay, here it is in Illustrator. It looks like here there are things missing, but Illustrator can be finicky like that, and all you need to do is zoom in, and now your lines are all showing. I would really suggest cutting just 2 pieces that fit together and making sure that your joints are the correct tolerance. What you don't want to have happen is you cut all of this and then nothing actually fits together. That would be not so great. So what I would do is open up a new file and let's make a test cut. Go ahead and type in whatever your material dimensions are for this. Create. So I know that both of these pieces slot together, so I'm going to bring those to my test cut file and just press Command X, which deletes and copies. Bring them over here. There they are. And as always, get into the habit of putting these into the upper left-hand corner. Now remember that you need to change the stroke weight. So we'll change this to 0.01 mm. And now you're ready to take them to Epilog app, Epilog engraver, put in your settings, and do this test cut. You'll see if these fit together properly, and if they do, you can go back to the rest of your file and cut these. Remember that you need to engrave your name, so at some point early on you want to think about where that's going to be, and if that's going to be on your test cut, then go ahead and put that there and engrave it just in case it does work, and if not, you can put it here after you're done with your test cut. So let's say your laser cut went well. The first thing that you want to do is try to put all those pieces together. Make sure that they all fit together. This is what mine looks like when it fits together. And if you now want to glue it together so that it's not a puzzle anymore and it's actually a container that's not going to come apart, I would suggest finding an old paintbrush in the lab, something small like this one, and some wood glue. You can use this. You can do this in the lab, put some scrap paper down so you don't get glue all over the table. Try to wash out your brush and put it back where you found it, let it dry out. You can also take it outside and paint it. You could stain it. There's a lot of post-process things that you can do that you're welcome to. With that said, let me know if you have any questions, and good luck.